back. We are on the last of the statements at this point that we need to fill out, and that's the statement of current monthly income. A brief overview of what this form is for is to show the bankruptcy court whether or not your income is too high to qualify you for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. If you're making enough money, the bankruptcy code and rules state you're not eligible to file bankruptcy. You make enough money or income um, to be able to take advantage of the bankruptcy process. And so let's take a look at that form. I'm back on Ashley's page and I've clicked on Statement of Current Monthly Income. And I'll generate a form here and open it up. And so, pulled up official form 122A-1. As you see, this is the Chapter 7 Statement of Current Monthly Income. And it outlines your monthly income and compares it to the median income for the state that you live in. And so we'll go over how Ashley filled it in. She filled in her name first, like always, and where she filed. And so we'll go ahead and knock that out. Now, the box on the right side, on the top right of the first page, says check one box only as directed in this form and in Form 122A-1 sub. And it says, it gives you three options to select. As we'll see as we fill out this form according to the way Ashley did it, you will be instructed to select one of these boxes based on how you fill out your form below. And so we'll see how that works. Moving on to part one. The first question is, what is your marital and filing status? In Ashley's case, you'll recall she is not married, and so she selects the first option. If you are married and your spouse is filing with you, you would fill out both columns A and B for lines 2 through 11. And so you'd see both of these sides filled. In Ashley's case, and in any case where you are not married, you would fill out column A. And that's what we'll see in Ashley's form here. If you're married and your spouse is not filing with you, it asks you to provide more details about whether whether you and your spouse are living in the same house or are you living separately. And it provides different instructions based on those two things. So please read these if you are married and make sure you understand the correct way to fill this form out. I'm not going to get into too many details on this for now because we're going with Ashley's simple case. Of course, if you have either of these situations, you are going to need to fill out the form accordingly. So, the first thing it asks you to do is fill in the average monthly income you receive from all sources during the full 6 months before you file this bankruptcy case. And so, this form is in a lot of ways similar to Schedule I, which asks you to fill in your income. And we'll see a lot of similarities between how Ashley filled out her Schedule I and between how Ashley filled out this statement. So, the second paragraph says, fill in your gross wages, salary, tips, bonuses, overtime, and commissions. For Ashley, this is the same figure she filled in as her gross income in Schedule I. And you'll recall that was $29,616. Keep in mind that this figure is before all payroll deductions. It's a figure of gross income. It's not going to be her net income after deductions are removed from her paycheck. It's going to be what she makes in gross. And then we move on to the next lines. Alimony and maintenance payments. For Ashley, that's $0, and that's what she filled in here. 4, all amounts from any source which are regularly paid for household expenses of you or your dependents, including child support. This, again, does not apply to Ashley. She put 0. Of course, if you have these amounts and they do apply to you, please fill them in accordingly. And, question 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 on this form don't apply to Ashley. Remember how she filled out Schedule I, and she said basically the only place I get my income from is from my paycheck. I'm not making income from things like rental properties. I don't operate a business. I don't have interest dividends or unemployment compensation or pension or retirement income or income from any other sources. So this is going to be consistent with her Schedule I in that she's not going to have income from any of these sources. And that's how you'll see this filled out. So for 5 through 11, we're going to see a lot of zeros for Ashley because she doesn't make income from any of these sources. So let's fill it in accordingly. Now, if you obviously, if you do make income from any of these sources, and then you have ordinary and necessary expenses from these sources, you would fill them in here. In Ashley's case, she doesn't, and so this makes it really simple for her to fill out. Unemployment compensation also asks for you and for your spouse. In Ashley's case, she doesn't have a spouse, so she left that blank. Pension and retirement income, again, 0. Income from all other sources are none. And so that's how she fills this out. Paragraph 11 asks you to calculate your current total monthly income by adding up all these amounts. For Ashley, again, it's going to be really simple because it's just adding up her total wages that she receives. And so the total monthly income for Ashley is $29.16. Part 2, determine whether the means test applies to you. So essentially, the way this works is that if you make a certain amount in income as compared to the annual median income in your state, then you would have to pass a means test. You essentially have to pass a test that shows you are eligible to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And we'll see how that works here in a moment. So, question 12, calculate your current monthly income for the year. Copy your total income from line 11. I think it did that automatically for me here. Multiply by 12. And so if we do that and we multiply it by 12, the total annual income for Ashley is $34,992. And so moving on to question 13, let's calculate the median family income that applies to you. Follow these steps. Fill in the state in which you live. For Ashley, as you recall, that's Alabama. Fill in the number of people in your household. For Ashley, she doesn't have any dependents and she doesn't have any children. And so the answer for that question is 1. The last part of section 13 says, fill in the median family income for your state and size of household. To find a list of applicable median income amounts, go online using the link specified in the separate instructions for this form. This list may also be available at the bankruptcy clerk's office. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and pulled up that website so you can have it. The website name is justice.gov/UST/means testing. And when we go to that website, we will scroll down and select the period of time that we need to file our bankruptcy. For most of you guys, I'm assuming it will be May 1, 2020 or after. And if that applies to you, you would select go. Obviously, after the time of the recording of this video, there may be extra options here. And so you make sure you select the option that applies to you. Now recall, Ashley filed her case in December of 2019. And so what she actually had to do was go down and choose the time period that applied to her. That time period was between November 1, 2019 and March 31st, 2020. And so she selected that time period and hit go. Now, we're taken to the next page titled Means Testing, and we're provided the first link on this page, which is the way we determine a median family income based on the state that you live in. So let's click on that link. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see this a little better. But you'll notice that when we click on this link, it says, for cases filed between these dates, The following table provides median family income data reproduced in a format designed for Bankruptcy Form 122A1. That's what we're filling out. We're filling out this form. And so it doesn't take long to find Alabama, which is Ashley's state, and the amounts of median family incomes for family size. Now, obviously, if you were in another state, you would find your state, you would find your family size, and go and choose that amount. For example, if I live in Iowa and I have a family size of 2, maybe it's just me and my spouse, I would go to Iowa, go to 2, and find that the median family income for that state and that size of house is $67,867. And that's the amount I would put in my form. In Ashley's example, recall she lives in Alabama and she lives in a one-person household. So she pulls this number, 47,680, and puts that number in her form. And so let's go ahead and do that. This is how she filled it out. She put in 47,680. So question 14 asks, how do these lines compare? How does this line compare with this line? 14A, the first option is line 12B is less than or equal to line 13. And that's, you'll notice, exactly what we have here. Line 12B, which is Ashley's annual income, is just under $35,000. Line 13 is $47,680. Since line 12B is less than this amount, we'll go ahead and click that figure, and that's how Ashley filled out her form. You'll note that it instructs you to, on the top of page 1, check box 1, there is no presumption of abuse. And so let's go back up, and just like Ashley did, click there is no presumption of abuse. Okay? And let's scroll back down and see the next instruction is go on to part 3. You don't have to fill out any extra forms if this option applies to you. And it says specifically, do not fill out or file official form 122A-2. And so essentially, now that Ashley's finished this form and compared these two amounts, and this amount is less than this amount, she's essentially done with this aspect of her bankruptcy forms. Now, let's assume, for example, for a minute, that 12B actually was greater than this amount. Let's say she makes $50,000 in annual income. In this case, she would have selected this box, which says line 12B is more than line 13. And on the top of page 2, she would have had to check box 2, which says the calculation to determine if a presumption of abuse will be made under Chapter 7 means test. And so that means she's got to go ahead and fill out Form 122A2 and attach it to her petition. So keep in mind, if your amount here is greater than your amount here, you're going to have a little bit of extra work to do, and you've got another form you're going to fill out. And so that's something to keep in mind. For Ashley, though, again, we got a simple case in a lot of ways, and this is another way her case is really simple. Her income is low enough so that she doesn't have to fill out any extra forms about her income. And so she can move on to part 3, and that's what she did. Part 3, by signing here, I declare under penalty of perjury that the information on this statement and any attachments is true and correct. And so Ashley provides her name accordingly, as well as the date she filed her petition. Okay, I will go ahead and save this. And now that I've saved this form, I can go back to the website for Ashley's profile, select what I just worked on, and upload it. Now that this is saved, we've completed our statement of current monthly income. And so we can select completed and move on. Thanks again for going through your statements. We're now done with the 3 statements we have to complete, and we can move on to the final stage of this process, which is the declaration. I'll see you soon.